been 3 hours. I'm hungry. Breakfast? I'm buying, Michael offered. Yes, you are. I bought last time. Chris patted Michael on the arm. I had a cup of coffee. That was all. Michael shook his head in disbelief. Hey, the system works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Chris placed his hand on Michael's back, leading him toward the front door. Chris looked around at the CSI and beat cops and said loudly, "Carry on, my wayward sons." The hash house was cheap, dirty, and nearly empty due to the snow. The stereotypical retired guy was there sipping coffee, reading the newspaper, and loitering. It had all the charm of a funeral home. The air was so thick you could cut it with a machete. Although Chris was depressed in general since the loss of Abby and Connor, he still had a good appetite and the metabolism of a 15-year-old girl. He wolfed down a Grand Slam with scrambled eggs, bacon, and pancakes with a glass of orange juice. He was on his second glass while Michael worked on his coffee and a ham and cheese omelet. It was warm inside the joint, and the staff liked having the cops around since the sheer number of daily crazies was something to take note of. So whoever killed poor Mr. Von Drack wanted us to find this story, scary pasta? Chris asked. Michael nodded his head. Have you read any of the story yet? Chris asked before gulping down some OJ. No, not yet. I figured I'd do that at the station or at home. It looked pretty long. The guy who wrote it, Andrei Borislava, lives in Detroit and is originally from Bulgaria. He's here on a student visa, Michael informed Chris. Well, let's read it and give him a call. I'll leave the tip, said Chris. Hey, how's Carol and the kids? He asked as he reached into his wallet and pulled out a $5 bill. Michael sat up from the booth and put on his beige trench coat. They're good. Mickey started crawling yesterday, and Eva loves kindergarten. Carol's good, he nodded. That's good. Hey, you spend as much time as you can with those little rugrats. They grow up fast, Chris said as he placed the open 5 under his glass. Hey, why don't you go back home at lunch and spend it with Carol? I'll go back to the station and read the story. Just text me the link. I'll fill you in on the cliff notes later, Chris insisted. Yeah, okay. Thanks, man. Michael thanked Chris's kind gesture. He felt pity for Chris. Everybody did. Every day they saw every form of violence under the sun. Shootings, stabbings, suicides, strangulations, decapitations, rape. Yet, the other cops couldn't imagine, didn't want to imagine, losing their families to the darkness of the streets. Chris Priest had been that cop who had won the big prize. Then, in a brilliant flash, he lost what was most important. The spark, that fire. That which kept him from losing his marbles after seeing all the ugly that he had seen. His saving grace. Chris sat in front of the dinosaur of a computer monitor, curiosity piqued. He shared a dark, damp office with Michael towards the back of the station. It was out of the way, just perfect for Chris. The door was closed. He didn't want any interruptions. The time now was 1:49 p.m. Looking at the text message from Michael, he typed it in the link. It took him to the Scary Pasta website. Black background appeared with the title, A Tale of Him Holding a Lemon, in white letters. He began to read, and he was captivated from the start. Every word, every sentence pulled him in. This story was on par with Stephen King's work. An hour had passed into the story when Chris received a text message from Michael. Calling it a day at the hospital. Eva had an asthma flare-up. Talk later or tomorrow. Okay, buddy. Do what you need to. Von Drack ain't going anywhere. Catch you on the flip. Thanks. With that, Chris resumed the story with all the intrigue of a child. It told of the writer's horrifying experience of a creepy Cheshire cat-like smiling man who appeared to him throughout his life, holding up and offering him a lemon. He never said a word, just held a once brilliant yellow lemon, now rotting with the years. It was the same lemon every time. Upon each encounter, the author manages to get away. He traces this man throughout his family history and, after a visit, finds the same man appeared to his grandmother. This pattern continued throughout his life growing up in Bulgaria until he moved abroad to study in the US, which is where he is now. Before he knew it, Chris had finished the story, highly entertained and completely oblivious to the time. It was now 5:04 p.m. Only then did he realize how full his bladder was. After reading the entire story and all of the comments turning up no solid leads, he came to the conclusion that the killer or killers bumped off poor old Mr. Von Drack to recreate the ending of the story. But why? He would start with the scribbler. "Hey Mary, how's it going, dear?" "I'm fine, just burning the midnight oil." "Hey, listen, I have a lead I want to contact, but I need a trace. He's a Bulgarian national living in Detroit on a student visa. His name is Andrei Borislava." "Right. That's Andrei, Andrei, Borislava. Like it sounds. Borislava. Yeah. How soon can you have it?" "Yeah? Good. Thanks, sweetheart. You're a doll. I'll be waiting in my office." Michael wiped away the dream dust from his eyes. All he wanted was just a few more hours of sleep, but knew that if Chris could manage to wake up every day and pull himself out of his stupor, so could he. At least he still had his spark, his reason for it all. In the Mexican culture, family is everything. He turned his head to his right side where his wife Carol was sleeping in peacefully, gracefully. The way the light hit her face and shined off of her hair was poetry. He was dizzy with this dame. He turned toward her and kissed her on the forehead, placing his left hand on her hair, caressing the wavy black locks. He turned back and reached over, picking up his cell phone from the nightstand to check the time. 7:24 a.m. He unlocked the screen and began to text Chris. "Good morning. Breakfast? You're buying." "Sure. Usual spot. 8:30. I'll be the dapper one in the leather jacket." "You mean that leather miniskirt, right? Nice comeback. I got intel on the Von Drack case. Catch you on the flip side, amigo." Michael opened the glass door of the hash house and walked through. It looked like a retirement home dining room. He was greeted by the hostess, a smiling kitten. Young, cute, full of life. She was hitting on all 8.
"Good morning, sir. Just one?"
she asked as she reached for a menu and pre-rolled silverware under the podium. "No, ma'am. I'm meeting my buddy, over there, the gentleman in the cheap leather jacket." Michael motioned in Chris's direction. Chris gave a confirming wave and nod to the hostess.
"Yes, sir. Right this way."
she invited with a giggle. Michael followed her to the booth where Chris had just started on his Nutella crepes and scrambled eggs with a side of ham. "Well, well, the Sundance Kid rides again," Chris greeted Michael while working diligently on his crepes. "Good morning, old man River," Michael shot back.
"Your server will be right over to take your order, sir,"
the hostess interrupted before taking her leave. "Thank you, dear," said Chris. Chris looked up at Michael and asked, "How's Eva?" Michael looked at Chris. "She's doing better today. Gave us quite the scare." "Yeah, glad to hear it. Listen, don't feel bad, but I took over for you last night. I tracked down and spoke to Borislava. Read the story, too. It was good," Chris explained. He had an alibi. He's in Detroit. He seemed horrified that somebody would have linked his pasta and used his... Wait, what? His pasta? Michael interrupted as he gave Chris his full attention. Yeah, that's how they refer to the stories. What? Don't give me any grief, they're good. I like them, Chris said as he looked Michael in the eye before taking another bite of his ham. Anyway, he wanted to take the story down and I told him to leave it up. We may draw the killer out again and we might be able to track his IP address. I also took Von Drack's photo around the ferry clubs after I spoke to Borislava. Michael began to laugh. You actually went to a gay bar? So did you get lucky? Chris now had an annoyed look on his face. If you mean did I ID the Nancy boy kissing Von Drack, then yes I did, Watson. Several people confirmed his identity and current whereabouts, Chris retorted. No shit, who is he? Michael was intrigued. He is one Johnny Aguilar, 54, a retired U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant and recently deceased. 8 months ago. Heart attack, Chris answered. He was now halfway finished with his breakfast. Just then a tall, wiry man wearing glasses approached the table to take Michael's order. Good morning, sir. My name is Abel. I'll be taking care of you today. What can I get you to drink? Yeah, coffee, black. And I'll have the oatmeal with the mixed fruit, Michael replied. The waiter repeated Michael's order and disappeared into the kitchen. So the autopsy results won't be in for 72 hours. Our only lead now is going back to the station and researching the Scary Pasta website. See if the killer has posted anything new on there, bragging or whatever, Chris suggested before gulping down the rest of his tall glass of orange juice. Yeah, sounds like a plan, man. So, how did it go at the gay bars? Anyone try picking you up?